Valentine's Day, and welcome to another week of Kids Church at Home. Well, this is a special Valentine's Day. Often on Valentine's, I'm sure that you exchange cards with the people who are important to you, or maybe you have done this in the past. Today, though, is also Have a Heart Day. It's a day when we are all called to pay attention to the kids who are living in First Nations communities around us in this country, who are our neighbours and our brothers and sisters, and who struggle because they don't have the same resources that we do. And so our invitation is on this Valentine's Day to create a love letter and a love card to our First Nations brothers and sisters and neighbours around us, to say that we see them and we care. So join me this week as we have a heart and we use this Valentine's Day to explore what that means. Our special shout out this week goes to Xander and Abigail and Molly. Thank you so much for joining and for being part of this and for taking part in exploring with us. So, Have a Heart Day. I want you to imagine if you went to school one day and it wasn't actually a school building. What would that be like? To go to school and maybe it's just a portable that you go to, but there's no actual school. There's no gym or office or playground. I want you to imagine, what would it be like if when you went to school in winter, you had to wear gloves and a toque and a coat while you were inside doing work? How would that be to write things if you could barely hold your pencils and papers? I want you to imagine if when you went to school with your water bottle full of water, you couldn't fill it from the tap at school because the water that comes out of the taps would make you sick, and so you couldn't refill your water bottle. I want you to imagine that when you went to school, there weren't enough books for everybody. There wasn't enough paper and pencils to do your work. I want you to imagine in these days where we've had to learn from home and use all kinds of devices, if you didn't have a device and your school couldn't provide one because they only had one computer or one device for every 10 kids. What would that be like to learn? What would that be like to hang out with your friends in that? Well, for lots of kids in Canada, they don't have to use their imagination for those things because that's what they live with. It seems so different from many of our school experiences, doesn't it? And I know that this last year has been so challenging for lots of people, and we've struggled to find enough computers and devices and get the resources and be connected and be at home and be at school. We've really struggled. But we've always known that this wouldn't last forever. That this is temporary and it's a crisis and it's really hard, but it's short and it will end. But for many of these kids that we've just talked about, there is no end yet. They don't know when they will have a real school building. They don't know when they will have clean water to drink. They don't know when they will have enough computers to go around, or enough resource teachers to help those who are struggling, or enough pencils and paper and coloring and marker and toys and equipment and balls to play with, because they're not being given the same amount of money as our schools are given. And so those things that we take for granted, their schools don't get that. Have a Heart Day is about us noticing the unfairness of that. And we now have maybe a little bit more understanding because we've struggled in school this last year too. And we know our problems are going to come to an end. And so now is the time for us to say, it's time for those problems to end too. There is an advocate, somebody who speaks up for children in First Nations communities, and she says she's learned this lesson from her elders. She's learned people of greatness are not necessarily those who have really big hearts. Instead, they are the ones with the art of linking one heart to another and to another. And in our faith tradition, we are reminded constantly that God changes us one person at a time, and when all of those people are put together, all of their lights shine together, they can make a big difference. And so on this Have a Heart Day, it's not going to be one person who's going to change the schools and the funding and the resources for our brothers and sisters and neighbors and First Nations. It's going to be you and me and all of our hearts put together. And so we are going to create some wonderful heart cards. And you can use these heart cards to send a message to say, that's not fair. Let's help our brothers and sisters and neighbors from First Nations communities. Today for our craft, we are going to create these cool pop-up heart cards. How neat is that? So when you open it, the heart pops up. I'm going to show you how to make one of these, and I would invite you to use these cards to send a message of support for our First Nations brothers and sisters and neighbors. But once you've learned how to make one of these cards, you can put any kind of message in it. So you can make all kinds of cards for all kinds of people. And how neat is that? All we're going to need for this craft is one piece of paper, a pair of scissors, and some markers. And most importantly, our imagination and our heart. What we are going to need for our craft today is just a simple piece of paper, a pencil, a pair of scissors, and some markers. And then we can create any kind of message and pop-up that we want. Today's pop-up is going to be a heart. But once you figure out how to do a heart that pops up like this, you can do just about anything. So the first thing that we are going to do is fold our paper. We're going to fold it in half, lengthwise like this. And now we're going to fold it in half this way as well, up like so. Okay, and now I'm going to actually unfold this one. And I'm going to draw my heart on only one of these sections on the paper. I'm going to grab my pencil, and I want my heart, I don't want it to come any more than halfway across the page. So I'm going to put the middle of my heart on the folded edge. You can see where it's folded. And I'm going to draw my heart like so, but only half of it. I'm going to draw half the heart. And I'm going to make sure that my heart doesn't go beyond this half of the page. So maybe I will put a marker there to remind myself not to draw my heart any bigger than that. So I'm going to start on the folded edge, and I'm going to do a big loop up, and I'm going to go around, and then I'm going to bring the point back down to the edge. There is half my heart. There we go. So it starts on the folded edge, and we do a loop up and around, and it comes down to a point. Okay, our next step is we're going to cut part of our heart, but not all of it, so that it stays attached to the page. We don't want the heart to be cut all the way out of the page. So I'm going to cut from the fold, and I'm going to cut up around to about here. And then I'm going to cut from the bottom point and up to about here, and I'm going to leave maybe the top of my thumb attached at the edge. Okay, there is my heart. Now let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to unfold my page. I'm going to fold it in half this way now. There we go. And then I'm going to pop this top part, I'm going to make it fold the other way, and the bottom part so that it's attached to the back, and leave the heart up like that. And then when I close my card, I'm going to bring the heart forward so that it folds. Then I'm going to smush that little fold inside there. And there is my heart that now pops up when I open the page. Now comes the hard part. We have to decorate this paper and make it really cool so that people can really see that we have a heart. So I'm going to start doing some coloring. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to outline my heart. And to do that, I'm going to go back to it being flat because that was a little bit easier. And I'm going to grab my red marker and I'm going to trace around the cut. There we go. And this will help make my heart stand out. The next thing I want to do is now add my message and decorate my heart. Now I have to think about what I want my message to be. What's important to me? I want to say that this heart is meant for us to remember to have a heart. So I'm going to write the words, have a heart. And now I want to add my message about what I think First Nations children deserve. So what are some of the things we think they deserve? I think we could add things like they deserve to be healthy. They deserve a school. They deserve clean water. They deserve to be safe. They deserve to be proud of who they are. So I'm going to write, First Nations children deserve a safe school. I've added my message. First Nations children deserve safe schools. I wonder, what is the message that you want to add? First Nations children deserve what? Well, now with my message and my pop-up heart, it's time for me to decorate the rest of my heart, maybe add some more words or things. I wonder if there's a word we could add to the middle of our heart. And let's decorate the rest of our card. Okay, I've finished the inside of my card. I now need to put something on the outside. Now I wonder, who is this card going to go to? Who makes these decisions? Well, I'm going to send my card to the Prime Minister of Canada because the Prime Minister can help change those decisions about how money is sent to communities around us. So I'm going to say that this card is going to the Prime Minister. And at the bottom, I'm going to write my message, have a heart. And now I need to sign it somewhere. So I'm going to put my name at the back. Well, my friends, there is my card to our Prime Minister. Dear Prime Minister, have a heart. We open my card. The heart pops up and it says, First Nations children deserve safe schools. I wonder, what does your card look like? But more importantly, what is your message to our Prime Minister? What message do you want to deliver with your heart? And what message can your heart add to my heart and add to the next person's heart? I wonder how many cards we could get sent to the Prime Minister. This is the week to do it. If you want me to send your card and your message, I want you to take a picture of it and to email it to me. If you can't drop it by the church, then email me a picture and I will put them all together and I will add them to my card and send them to the Prime Minister to say, we have a message and we stand together with the children of the First Nations communities around us to say they deserve to have safety and health and education and to be proud of who they are. Well, my friends, thank you so much for joining me this week in our Have a Heart Day and for taking the time to create a message and to think about what it must be like to not have the things that we take for granted around us. It's hard sometimes to imagine, even when we're having a hard time, that there are other children very close to us who are struggling even more than we are. But it's important to take that time and to remember and to speak up for them. Even if we're not having an easy time, we can still speak up for others around us who are also having a not easy time. That is part of what God calls us to do and how we can be then lights in this world. Remembering, as Cindy Blackstock says, that not any one of us has to be a huge, shining, big light. That's not what will make us great. But if each one of us links our hearts together, that is when we shine brightly and we can stand up and make a difference for those around us who need our support. My friends, let us bless each other into our week ahead. And don't forget to send me a picture of your message so I can send it along. May you have love in your heart to give. May you have joy in your heart to share. And most certainly, may you have strength in your heart to lift others up. Until next week, my friends, bye.